Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by Florida women's lacrosse player Liz Harrison, also known as the Draw Queen, according to the Florida Lacrosse Instagram. In her lacrosse career, Liz made it on the 2024 Inside Lacrosse All-American Second Team, the 2024 IWLCA All-American Third Team, and she was also a 2024 USA Lacrosse All-American Honorable Mention as well. She helped Florida win the fourth ACC AAC Championship as well as making it to a Final Four appearance this past season. And she ended her career with 440 total draw control wins, which makes her the all-time leader in draw control. So it's only fitting that we have her today on the Draw Control podcast. So, Liz, thank you so much for coming on. And how is everything going?
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it. Everything's going good. I'm enjoying just being home for a little bit.
Nice, nice. Yeah. What have you, I guess, do you plan on coming back to Florida next year? I'm not sure what the eligibility looks like. And if not, what are your plans? Because I know you received a marketing degree this past May.
Yes, so I am actually coming back for my marketing master's, but I have no more eligibility, so I will just be helping coach a little bit for draws and be a part of the team and help them out whenever I can. But I get to see college in a new light.
That's awesome. Do you want to be a coach in lacrosse after, like, in the future, or is it something that you're sort of just considering right now?
It was never really considered before because I didn't think it was an option, but I could see myself doing it for about a year or two. But ideally, I just want to get my marketing degree and start going to corporate America.
Nice, nice. Well, wish you all the best with that. That's pretty awesome. And you get to go back for a year and sort of be on the sideline. But I wish there was a way they could find out if you had some sort of extra eligibility, some sort of loophole to make that work.
I would have loved to be part of that team one more time. They're a great group of girls. And again, ending the season with our final four, it was the best way I could go out. But if I could come back and have another shot at it, I would.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off talking about the beginning of your career and sort of working all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Marietta, Georgia. Talk about growing up there. How'd you start playing lacrosse? Because I don't think Georgia is really known as a lacrosse hotbed as other places on the East Coast.
Definitely not a lacrosse hotbed. It started with I have an older brother, so every sport he did, it was kind of I just hopped in and did it. And he always gravitated towards the individual sports, and I always gravitated towards the team sport. So he picked up lacrosse, absolutely hated it. So we're driving home. We used to have a boat on Lake Lanier, and there's a free lacrosse lessons kind of sign on the door. And my dad, kind of tired of our energy, just kicked us out, had us go do the camp, and I fell in love with it. My brother was like, absolutely not. This is not for me. I'm going to stick to swimming. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I love this. So growing up in Georgia, I was not a hotbed. I just kind of played around wherever I could. I played on probably 1,000 different club teams. So made the switch a couple of times and ended up just loving it and picking it up. And thankfully, my high school had it and it started from there.
And growing up, did you have like a favorite lacrosse team or player that you like to watch?
The women's side, so again, Georgia wasn't big on lacrosse, so I mostly watched the guys lacrosse. So I would say Paul Rabel, Miles Jones, like Greg from the Face Off Academy, like all of them were just huge people that I loved watching, and they just always had a presence about them. And I loved watching them because they weren't cocky, but you could tell they had a little bit of swagger to them. And I was like, I want to be like that. I want to be cool, but my parents took that as buying me every neon color so they could spot me. And I thought that was cool for a time, but I would say those are my favorites.
Yeah, I feel like the best players are always the ones that have that aura to them. Like they're not showing off and being sort of like out in the open in that regard, but you know they're so good and you know they know it, but they don't say it. It's sort of I don't know how to describe it, but I always like those type of players as well.
100%. They're fun to watch.
hmm Now, before college, like you mentioned, you played for your high school at American Heritage. Just talk about your high school lacrosse days and what you took away from it, looking back on it today.
Yeah, so high school, I started out in Georgia. I played for Lasser High School for 2 years, loved it, made it to the state final. Unfortunately, lost that game and it was hard, but my family was already trying to move to Florida. Moved to Florida, started playing high school there, tore my ACL. So was out for my junior year, and then senior year was COVID. So I did not play a bunch of high school lacrosse in my second half. So my junior and senior year was a little bit tough. And I would say the biggest takeaways once I came back from my ACL, we had the indoor national championships, which was all 7-on-7, super fast, and that was the greatest time. I won it with American Heritage, and it was kind of brought our team together. It made me feel like I was part of the team again, and it went into our season for the very few games we had. But it was definitely something that I loved lacrosse in high school, and it just showed. And I did swimming and cross country, and thankfully lacrosse was always my favorite. And it just was enjoyable to be around a group of girls, to talk, to laugh, to make friends that way. And it helped me socially as well.
And is that your favorite memory from your high school lacrosse days, winning that indoor lacrosse championship?
100%. We were the underdogs, and it was the first time a team from Florida had ever a team not from the North had won it. So it was a big moment.
And how do you think your experience in high school helped prepare you for college lacrosse? I know you said you only played if we're being honest, 2 seasons, but I assume that there's something you learned from your high school days that made that transition to college easier for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Between club and high school lacrosse, I was thankfully exposed to a lot of different coaches, a lot of different coaching styles, a lot of different players. So one, it helped me just have a great group of friends. I knew a face to every camp I went to. I knew people who were going to different schools. So it helped just networking a little bit. But coaching wise, I would say the coaching style in Georgia is very, very different than the coaching style up north. Especially with the language they use. So I think that helped me at a serious level. I mean, I was actually getting yelled at as a coach, and that helped me because college isn't soft. You get told exactly what you're doing wrong and all that. And I never had that in Georgia. So being exposed to the different coaches and everything, and realizing the styles I like, what I respond to well, was instrumental to my success in college.
Yeah. I'm curious about that because I played hockey and I always hated getting yelled at because I felt like it never worked. And even I had a coach told me one time saying, I never yell at people because they don't like it. It doesn't never works. But I always like being coached hard. And I always felt like there was a difference between coaching someone hard and not yelling versus just yelling and being a-hole about the whole thing. So I'm curious how you sort of like responded to that sort of thing. Like, could you tell the difference between someone coaching you hard versus just, I guess, yelling and not being a nice person?
100%. And I think it comes down to like what effort the coach is trying to make a relationship with you, because I have coaches, especially some of the ones at UF, that they have taken the time to get to know me. They've taken the time to ask how I'm doing on the days, like, hey, are you okay? Like, how was school? All that stuff. And then when they get a little bit harder on me, I know it's from a place of caring. The ones who don't put any effort into getting to know me as a person, ask about school, ask about life, how are your parents doing? They come up after the game to shake my parents' hand. Those are the coaches that mean the most to me, and I actually take their hand. The ones who don't care about me as a person, I just take their coaching as more insensitive, and it's not personal, and they don't know what they're talking about, and
Hmm.
why are they always yelling at me, versus the coach who's like, hey, that was not good, try again, and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, I know they care, and I know they're watching for me and they want me to be better, but I don't want to hear it right now, but I know it's from a good place.
Yeah. That's why I always want to be an assistant coach, not a head coach, because I feel like as an assistant, you can be a little bit more of the nice person, whereas the head coach, sometimes you have to be the bad guy.
Absolutely 100%. And it's just so much pressure as a head coach too. As the assistant coach, you get to kind of like meet the players.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you mentioned this before, but you also played club lacrosse for Skywalkers, which is one of the top club lacrosse programs in the country. So, my question to you is, what was your club lacrosse experience like for you? Because obviously, you're playing against other Division One commits, so it sort of probably made you a better lacrosse player when you had to go up and play for the Skywalkers club.
Yeah, it was great. It was definitely they were shocked when I walked on the team and was like, "Hey, I'm from Georgia, a long way from Maryland," but they were pretty much just straightforward. And I was doing a clinic in in Atlanta, and then one of the Scours coaches was helping run the clinic, and she kind of reported back, invited me to do a tournament with them. Ended up loving the tournament with them. It was fun. It was competitive. I was able to hang with them. Um, Went back home. They invited me to try out for Skywalkers. My dad broke his ankle, so I missed tryout. So I was like, oh man, like there goes my shot at, playing for this really good team. And thankfully they evaluated my time I played with them for the tournament as my tryout, and they invited me to come up. So it was kind of all the cards falling in place. They get 100 more college coaches looked. I mean, just the name Skywalkers just carry so much more weight. So a lot of college coaches were happy to see that. And the ones that I was talking to at the time, they were like, that's exactly what you need. You need to be playing at that level. And again, that was when I started experiencing different coaches, different coaching styles, a little bit more harsher. They're throwing F bombs every other word. They're, run faster. And why are you so slow? And one of my coaches, he unfortunately just passed away, but he was famous for just being absolutely like ruthless but funny. So he told one girl on my team, he was like, if you're just gonna stand out here and do nothing, you might as well sit in this chair. So he brought out a chair in the middle of the field, had her sit in it for half the game, and she's just, on the verge of tears, all that stuff. But it was that kind of tough love. He was kind of our grandpa on the team. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is you got to get yourself exposed to different coaches because well, you might be the coach's favorite on this team, but this one's going to push you harder and make you a better player. And at the end of the day, each college coach is different. Whether, you're being recruited by them or you're actually on the team, you're going to see as a different side of the coach. So being ready for all those different coaching styles. And again, I've had a different assistant coach every year I've been at UF. And so they come in, I'm able to adjust. I'm able to know who I need to be a little bit more serious around, who I can kind of goof around and do that stuff with. So all that came from all my different club teams.
Yeah. What was that coach's name that pulled out the chair, if you don't mind saying?
Yeah, he was Mike McLaughlin.
All right, awesome, awesome. It reminds me of like Nick Saban when like he would like yell at his players like during like training camp, like in the hot summer day. And one player
Yeah.
got so mad because he kept doing the drill wrong and he like threw his hat. He's like, "Gosh darn it!" and stuff. And it's just so funny. It just sort of reminds me of him in that way.
100%. He was like exactly that character, except he knew when to like push it a little bit. So the chair when everyone was looking, we were like, oh man, like don't get on his bad side.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that just I do agree with you. I feel like the coaches that push the most are the ones you like the most because I remember conditioning drills always sucked in hockey, but like there's one coach that would make us do the Herb Brooks. I don't know if you've seen the movie Miracle where you would skate up and down the line for conditioning, and we had a
Yeah.
bad game. He made us do it, and it was brutal. But I appreciate it because we were in pretty good shape after that.
Yeah. It's all worth it in the end, but sometimes in the moment it's tough love.
Now, talk a little bit about your recruiting process with Florida. What made you want to go there versus the schools you might have looked at? I assume it's one of the top, it's a top lacrosse program, but it's one of the few lacrosse programs in the South. So that probably made it very attractive for yourself. But how did they like find you? Because you said you were injured for your junior year, and then obviously COVID happened your senior year. So I'm curious sort of how they evaluate your freshman and sophomore year tape in order to ask you to be on the team.
Yeah, so my recruiting process was really, really interesting because the rule that's now in place was not in place. So we could get recruited, and back then it was like if you didn't commit by eighth grade, you were not going D1. So it was really, really early. So I was in Georgia still. Thankfully, I was already playing with Skywalkers a little bit, or Lax Maniacs and a couple other teams. So I'd been seen, I'd gone all over. I've done shadow tournaments with a couple of programs, and Florida reached out pretty early on. I think it was like beginning of seventh grade. We were already in communication, already sending emails. Everything was kind of back and forth. Going into eighth grade, they dropped me. I was like, oh my gosh, my dream school, all that stuff. And I had a few talks with others. I think I was at the time looking at like Duke, um, where else was it? Like Oregon at the time because they had a bunch of new coaches that came, like Becca Block, and a lot of them came over. So it was like a brand new program. Michelle Tuma was going to coach it. It was like on the rise. So it was Oregon, Duke, and then Virginia were like my top three. Loved them. And again, from Georgia, there's no college really in Georgia that has Division I lacrosse at a high level. So my dad was always saying, if you want to go out of state, you got to get a scholarship. You got to get a scholarship. So I was talking to these schools, and then end of eighth grade, um, Florida picks me back up again. I get an email. All that's back up. Of course, as an eighth grader, I'm like, yes, I'm in it and I'm still in it. Your heart rate's going through the roof. I wanted to be a marine biologist, so I had no idea. I thought I was going to get to dive with the dolphins and photograph them. That was like what I wanted to do. My dad's harping on me, pick a school that has a lot of options, please. Like, don't be a marine biologist. And ended up, end of eighth grade, they sent out a notification that the Duke coach was trying to get this rule passed that you can't talk to coaches until the end of your junior year. So I get a call from Mandy and she's like, hey, call me back. Like, we want to offer you, we want to offer you. So I'm on the phone with them and then I get a call from Virginia. And Virginia's like, we're ready to offer all that stuff, but like we need to wait one more week. And I was kind of nervous about it, nervous about it. I was kind of getting a weird vibe. Pick up the phone again with Florida. I'm like, I'm ready to commit. I want to do this. I'm committing. I commit, and then I find out about 3 minutes later, a tweet came out saying the new rule is in place. Like you can't talk to any college coaches,
Wow.
all that stuff. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? So Mandy is emailing me saying, you can't tell anyone about your commitment. You can't tell anyone about it. We don't know if it's real yet or not. Ended up a few weeks later, they got notification that it was on time. I was committed. So it ended up working out for the best. And here I am as a business major still at UF. But at the end of the day, the rule's good. But my recruiting process was wild because it was
Yeah.
eighth grade.
Well, shout out to your dad for telling you to pick a school with a lot of options so you didn't just have to go to a school with marine biology.
Thank goodness I would have been in a really, really bad spot, put it that way.
Well, once you arrived on the team as a freshman, what was sort of like the biggest adjustment you had to make? It must have been kind of crazy to see all the talented players that were on your team. I feel like that probably stands out to you the most when you step on a college team for the first time.
100%. I mean, the biggest advice I can get is when you go to a college team like that, like everyone was the big fish in a little pond. You all were the best from your area, and now you come and you get weeded out real quick. So freshman year was tough because, of course, you come in and as a high school, you were the best. You really want to be the one playing, and there was already another draw girl there my freshman year. So I kind of got pushed to the side. I was like, okay, I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know where they see me and stuff. And just kind of dove into extracurricular activities and school and just enjoying the life. Because I mean, there's so much to do on a college campus. So fell in love with the school first and then started falling in love with lacrosse.
Yeah, and obviously trying to find your role is important too. I feel like the best teams, everyone knows that, you were the best player in your high school team, but it's sort of like now you have to find a different role to make the team successful. And I feel like the best
Yeah.
teams, I think people don't talk about this enough, is when the freshmen know to come in, find their role, and sort of adjust to it in a quick manner. And I feel like that's when a lot of teams have success. I feel like, teams like yourself, Northwestern, Syracuse, BC, I think one of the reasons why they have success is those freshmen come in, know how to adjust their role, and then they do it so well. So by the time they're like upperclassmen getting more playing time, the adjustment isn't as, I guess, drastic since they've been playing against and adjusted to that role pretty well as when they were freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the freshmen that come in and kind of keep their head down, know their role, willing to talk and goof off with the seniors and not be afraid of them are the ones that thrive the most and have relationships. And the one who come in kind of with their head a little too high and trying, focus are the ones that are struggling with lacrosse because they're just putting all this pressure on lacrosse having to be their life.
Mm-hmm. Now, you played in the American Athletic Conference, so just talk about what it was like being a part of that conference, the competition you faced each game.
Yeah, I would say my first 2 years, it was interesting because we didn't have James Madison in our conference. And so growing up in that conference in freshman year, we, won the conference big. There was no competition. It was crazy. Sophomore year, Vanderbilt, ECU, all of them, all of a sudden had a great recruiting class. They're doing well. They're um, making it closer games and it's more fun. And then junior year, James Madison comes in and beats this regular season. And that was kind of our big like, whoa, we used to run this conference, we never lost in it. And so it kind of was a slap in the face and we were ready for it after that and kind of went into that junior year conference championship being like, we don't get pushed around in this. Like this is our win. We don't want to leave this conference losing it. We won it for the past 11 times. So it was a really interesting game. I actually have a photo. One of our teammates took a screenshot of the bracket predictions, and everyone picked James Madison to win that game, like by the whole landslide. And so we all saw that picture before she put it in our locker room. We were like, you know what? Like, screw them. We can totally win this. And then we won by one. And that's one of my favorite games I've ever gone to.
Yeah, we'll talk about being the underdogs a little bit later on, obviously, but I do want to ask, are you excited for Florida to be in the Big 12 next season? I feel like it's going to be a step up with teams like Arizona State, Colorado, and yourself. I feel like it's going to be a fun conference, but I will miss the old AAC. But Cincinnati's joining you guys, so that must make it a little bit easier.
It will. And at the end of the day, we had a big California trip. So we saw some of these teams, and our old assistant coach is the head coach at Arizona State. So there's definitely some history there. There's going to be some competition, but it's going to just raise the level of competition overall. And it's great to see new teams. It's fun for these girls to get to travel a little bit during college. And it's going to be some long travel trips for them. But I mean, what a great way to visit Colorado, beautiful, beautiful university. That's where the championship's going to be held next year. So, I mean, what better way to just explore a new state?
Oh yeah, and Arizona State looks like a lot of fun too, especially I guess for you guys, you're in Florida, but for those teams out north to go there during January and February must be really nice.
Oh, it's beautiful out there.
Now, during your freshman year, you won your first American Athletic Championship. What did that one mean to you as a freshman? And sort of looking back on the four that you had, we'll obviously talk about your senior year one, but how did that one stand out compared to the year one you won your sophomore year and your junior year?
Freshman year just kind of set the tone. I would say it was a tough group of seniors on us. Like we were not very close with our seniors, but they were just very disciplined and they're like, this is the tone we're setting. This is what is going to happen. Um, and this is the expectation. So going forward from there, it was just the expectation was to win. We didn't want to be the first class to lose a conference. So that set the tone my freshman year. And then just moving forward, it was just fighting harder, especially again when James Madison joined. And then this past season, it was like, this is our last season in the AAC. We have to win.
Hmm. Now, during your sophomore year, you emerged as the team's draw specialist, and I would say you're the best draw control player of all time. I think the numbers show that. And so I'm really happy that you're on the podcast named after the stat you've dominated. But I have to ask now that you've graduated, I feel like you can give a little bit of your secrets away. So, what was the key to your success in the circle, and what did you enjoy most about your role as a draw specialist on the team?
I would say I enjoyed it the most because again, as the draw specialist, you kind of have all eyes on you for that first whistle. So it was fun to kind of have that moment. I loved the leadership position it put me in. I get to do my walkout, after every goal. And it's a good time to just look at my teammates, kind of like, I would always put my hands like this and be like, calm down, like, we're good. It's just the first goal of the game, or hey, we got lots of time left. And it was a cool position when I was dominating a game to be like that was a huge reason for success, I would say, against our first game against Maryland. Like the whole second half, I think I only lost one or two draws, and we were down 8-2 at halftime. So a big reason is if you get the ball, you can score. And it provided a role that I could kind of live up to and have a leadership and kind of calm my team down. And they would have confidence in me and they would start building off that confidence. But as for secret sauce, I just think reaction time is like the biggest thing. I'm a skeet shooter, so I love kind of doing that. And it's always a lot of point shoot, point shoot. So when I started doing the draw, it was very a similar feeling. So I would say knowing how to dictate your circle people and kind of, I don't know, for me, it's like chess. You got to trick the other team. So sometimes I'll be pointing at my teammate and be like, oh my gosh, like be ready. I don't have it. Like, holy cow, it's going there. And then I just put it this way. And then the team kind of starts to question whether what I'm saying is true or not. But I'll look at my teammates before that first draw and just be like, completely ignore everything I'm about to tell you. I just want you to be ready for the ball here. And they know in their head, but out like when I'm talking, it just sounds so obnoxious.
Yeah. Who was the best person in the circle you ever went up against?
I would say two people kind of gave me a really, really hard time. I would say Shay Ahern is an incredible player, and she's one that's smart and can adjust and kind of do a bunch of different things. And then Caitlin Mashevsky's always just so good. She and I had a battle I think it was either sophomore or junior year. We had a big battle in that game, and it was just fun. I mean, we're both self drawers and we're both really tight. So it was like she'd win one right to herself, and then I would win one right to myself. And like the circle people just stood there. So it was just kind of a really good battle of the draw people.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why that Maryland game was so fun was when you and Shaylin went at it in the circle. And it just makes the game more fun when, like, right from the whistle, it's already very competitive. So I agree with you on
Mhm.
that. And when you look back on your career with Florida, what would you say was the biggest improvement you made to your game? Would you say was it your just strategy in the circle, or was it some other aspect that you look back on now?
I would say being more vocal with my draws. My sophomore year was the first year I actually kind of emerged as a draw specialist. And I remember always trying to put it to the same spot or kind of I had my one thing. And I think going into my junior year, that transition of I started being able to place the ball all around the circle, whether it was me, I call it a white draw, but me intentionally losing it and going with the other girl to get it back to my teammate, or um, just sending a ball to space and just knowing, like trusting my teammates to get there instead of thinking I have to do it to myself. And that just made me more relaxed as a draw player and actually helped me win more draws to myself when I knew my teammates had my back.
Now, obviously, as a senior this past year, what type of leadership did you want to bring to the team? Would you consider yourself sort of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
I think both. I am not a very confrontational person, so I would say mine is more actions, but more, hey, like, let's not be doing that. Kind of little subtle things. I'm not the one who's going to give a speech before a whole game and all that, but I'm very encouraging. I'm a very positive, bubbly person. I like to laugh. I like to have fun. And at the end of the day, lacrosse is an after school activity. It's meant to be fun. We picked up a stick when we were 8 because we thought it was a cool sport. So why can't it be cool now? So I just tried to really emphasize that on my team. Like at the end of the day, lacrosse isn't going to be your life, and I want these girls to be good people before freaking out about lacrosse. So I was kind of the one who was trying to push them into go join a club, go, let's have movie night. So I'd bake a bunch of cookies and we'd have movie night together and kind of work on that team chemistry. And then that just translated on the field to when I looked at them and was like, hey, like we're good, like we're fine, we got this and stuff. They kind of were trusting that I meant it. I'm not internally freaking out also, and so I would say example, but I
Yeah,
would say like little positive verbs, were my vocal part. Yeah,
it seemed like you guys had a pretty good freshman class this past year from an outsider perspective.
we did. And they were just the nicest girls. They just added to our culture. They're all so funny. We do Halloween every year, and Halloween is when we dress up. And this year's freshman class like really did a good job because usually the freshman comes in and they're like, oh, like how far do we go? And then we have some crazy girls on our team that go all out. So they actually went all out. They did High School Musical and just embraced it. So it spoke to their character. They were just a great group to add to our team.
Nice. What did the senior class do?
We did Magic Mike.
I
So
I guess I'll just leave that one right there. So,
yeah, we had a ball with someone. The sophomores of The Simpsons, they like painted themselves yellow.
I could not do that in the hot weather.
It was epic. Like we go all out for Halloween. If you watch any Instagrams, make sure you watch Gators Lax during Halloween because it's epic.
All right, all right. What did the junior class do since you?
I think they did the Lorax one time.
Oh, that's cool.
We did the Bachelorette my sophomore year. So
That's
my
really
freshman
cool.
year we did dynamic duos. So each person paired up. So like I was Mario and Luigi, someone was Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
And we each did that. My sophomore year, we did the Bachelorette. So we all thrifted suits from Goodwill, and we had this one girl on our team, Jackie, dress up in like a whole gown, like it was a sequin gown. And we all like put beards on our face and did that. My junior year, we did, I gotta remember what we did. Um, I can't remember, but my senior year, we did the Magic Mike, and we all just bought these like puffy muscle suits or the t-shirts that like look like they have muscles and did that. And we like choreographed a dance and everything. It was so funny.
That's awesome. Do the coaches get involved at all?
Oh yeah, the coaches this past year were oh my gosh, what's the show? Ted Lasso.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
They all did Ted Lasso characters.
Now, to say your senior year with Florida was magical, I would say it would be an understatement. So let's start off by winning the AAC Championship for the fourth time in your career. What did this one mean to you as a senior, knowing it was the last time you were going to play in the American Athletic Conference, but also just knowing that was your last conference championship? So, like, if you won 3 in a row, you might as well win 4 in a row.
I mean, what better way to go out with a bang? And we had all uphill, steam for this season. So that just set the tone for our postseason is like, we are going all out. Like, this is what we have. We're here to prove something. We were trying to make it to get us ranked in the top 8 so we could host, but didn't work out. But at the end of the day, we were better on the road this year. So we were just going to take it and run with it.
Yeah. in your first 3 years with Florida, the furthest your team made it was to the third round. But last season was a bit of a bummer. You guys were upset by Notre Dame in your home field. So, what was your team's mindset heading into the tournament this season after that upset? Was it sort of like, did you use that upset as like motivation, or was it sort of like, let's put that in the back burner and focus on the job we have to do for this year?
It was definitely a bummer, but I think we were so focused on like this is a new year, a new team. And I think our biggest drive for this year was we had a great freshman class and like a great senior class that a lot of times when it gets to May, everyone's like, oh, I want to go home. Like I'm tired. I'm ready for summer. And that the past 3 years I've heard that. This is the first year I never heard that from our team. It was like, well, we're already here. Like we might as well be here till the end of May. Like, sure. Our team goal was to make it to Final Four. And it was kind of a wild goal, especially with, like you said, our past. We never made it that far, but this was the first season that we were like, we're here. We might as well stay here.
Now, the first and second round, your team had to beat two ACC powerhouses in North Carolina and Virginia in their home turf, Virginia, that is. So, talk about those two games, especially the UNC one, because that was a very physical game from my perspective. And from an observer standpoint, it seemed like you guys didn't really like each other that much. So, I'm just curious what it was like as a player on the field, and then obviously upsetting Virginia. I think it was sort of like two teams that I think people sort of underestimated heading into the season, but obviously you guys came up on top.
We have a lot of history with UNC, and there's not many times that we've beaten them. And this, it gets chippy. A lot of players know each other. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of emotions behind that game, and especially in a game where a lot of the players are the senior class and a lot of people are going home. We came in at first, we were like, oh, like we kind of got screwed on the placement. And then we all sat down and were like, if we had to get one game back from this past season, which one would we want? And we all said UNC. Like that was the game. We just did not play our best. And we knew we didn't. Nothing was clicking. And so we kind of switched our mindset to like, F yeah, like this is the game we want back. This is the one that we know we can win this game. And we just have to play our best. And we were like, this is a great opportunity to make a statement. And same with Virginia. Everyone had Virginia winning because, again, they always had a close game with UNC and all that. And then we came out and ended up getting running clock on UNC, kind of a deja vu moment because they had running clock on us in the beginning of the season. And, you know, go into Virginia with our heads high, like we can contend with these teams. And it was cool because in the past, Florida's always struggled against some of these teams. And in the span of what, 3 weeks, we beat three top five teams. So it was huge for us. We were thrilled.
Yeah, I've sort of looked at that sort of, I guess, bracket as the group of death. You know how in World Cup they have different, and that feels like Virginia, UNC, and Florida, like, oh man, like two of those teams, like three of those teams could easily make it to the third round. So, but that was really cool that to see you guys make it that far, especially for lacrosse, because for me, it's important to see lacrosse grow in different areas. So it's kind of cool to see a team from like a different region, different conference sort of make it out instead of those, I guess, traditional powerhouses. But it was a lot of fun as a fan to watch both those games.
It was a fun game to play, I'll tell you that.
You guys then went on to beat Maryland, in which, in my opinion, was one of the most well-rounded games in the entire tournament that you guys played. Um, everyone, no, I would say pretty much no one had you guys winning that game. So talk about that upset and what it was like to beat Maryland, and how do you think it differed from the OT when you had against them in the regular season? Because I feel like whenever you beat a team in the regular season, they usually come out with some adjustments and it's a little bit more tougher, but it felt like you guys handled those adjustments very well and made it obviously it didn't go to overtime like last time. So
Yeah, I would say that game that we played in the beginning of the season, we were a completely different team at the end of the season. We had people on the field who ended up not playing anymore, and we had people who didn't really have a chance that first game to prove themselves the rest of the season. And we had people, one of our middies became a full defender by the end of the season. One of our attackers became a full midi. Like we had so many people switch places that we were a completely different team when we played them again. And the fact that we had beaten them in overtime the first time we played them and we knew that wasn't anywhere near the team that we are now, we came into that game no doubt in our mind that we were going to win. Everyone kind of picked us as the underdog ranking wise. We saw it as disrespectful that they were put fourth and that, everyone was doubting us when at the end of the day, we were a completely different team. So we knew it was going to be a battle again. Home turf field advantage for them. That AstroTurf is not the easiest thing to play on, but we just trusted our matchups, trusted our coaches, and trusted our team to just get the job done. And they did a really good job in that first quarter, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But how was that? Did you guys take a plane to that game? How fun was that plane ride back after you won?
It was really fun because that was the first time we found out that you get a trophy for making the Final Four and you get all this swag and all this gear and they're handing out stuff. So um, all of us were kind of celebrating it and just dancing on the we had a private charter, so we were just all going crazy and dancing through it because it was just that's exactly how we wanted to beat that team and win our side of the bracket because again, a lot of teams on that side of the bracket were really good. And for us to go through and just like dominate, dominate, dominate was a dream come true.
Now, your magical season came to a close with a loss against Northwestern. What was your Final Four experience like in North Carolina, and how have you reflected on that loss almost a month later?
It was tough. I definitely think that rain delay kind of was tough on both teams, but I think just looking forward, we have a lot to be proud of after reflecting back on it. I think, our team gave everything we had. I think there were a couple of moments where we got into a lull and that ended up hurting us at the end of the day. But honestly, looking back on it, I can't be more proud. We accomplished our goal. That's the number one team in the country at the moment. And I mean, they have experience and carry. So I'm happy with it. It was a tough way to go out, but I have no regrets on my career.
Yeah. What was it like being in North Carolina? I feel like I know you guys don't think this way, but obviously this upcoming season is going to be at Gillette, and that seems like it's going to be a more fun, I guess, place to host. But what was it like being in North Carolina? Because I've heard sort of mixed reactions about it.
It wasn't honestly the greatest. It was like the boys' game was up in Philly, which is the lacrosse capital of the world, also. And
Hmm.
I mean, it's just it brings in a different crowd. We had a great crowd, and I really appreciate our fans. Like we had all our alumni come, like parents, sisters, brothers, everyone made the trip, but Cary, North Carolina is a little bit tough to get to, and it's just not a lacrosse capital. There's a lot of soccer there, but not a lot of lacrosse. So it was tough just seeing, it would have been fun to host with the men just to have that experience, but we'll work on it for next year.
Yeah, I thought they always did, but I guess some years they don't, which makes no sense to me. I feel like it should have been in Philly with the men's tournament, but that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
I agree with you.
So now it's been a month since your final game was played. What will you take away from your time with Florida?
Oh my goodness, probably just like the memories of being on that field. I mean, everyone dreams of playing college lacrosse when you start getting to a level where it starts becoming a reality and you feel like you can do it. And I don't know, for me, everyone tries to go to a team where they can make it to the Final Four. Like that is, I mean, that's what you work so hard for, to make a team that can get there. And for me to be able to do that my senior year with a group of girls, that was just amazing. I loved my senior class. Um, Getting the opportunity to just play with a bunch of people who transferred in, some people I've played for 5 years with, 4 or 5 years with, even in college and high school and everything was just, it wrapped it up so nicely. And I'm just happy to have met so many different coaches through it. I've met my friends through school, and obviously it's a tough school to get into academically. So I'm just lucky that I had the athletic opportunity also.
Yeah, I think it's kind of ironic because before this interview, there was a documentary about Tim Tebow that was on the television. So I feel like it's sort of I don't know. I just thought that was cool, so I thought I'd mention that.
Yeah.
Now let's go on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you a little bit more off the field. First one is if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
I would say someone funny, and I love SNL, so I would say either Amy Poehler or Tina Fey because they just know how to have a good time, know how to be funny, but they're also they look like great people to me.
Mhm. I think for myself, either Chris Pratt or Owen Wilson, just because I find them both very funny actors as well.
That would be awesome.
Even though I don't look like Owen Wilson, but I feel like he can really make it work. So now, what was the best concert you've ever been to?
So I'm a concert junkie. So I've been to Duran Duran, Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Go-Go's, um, literally so many, Hootie and Blowfish. But the one I'm most excited about is I am going in a month to go see Cage the Elephant. with my brother in Texas. So I'm a big alternative rock fan. So that one, I haven't been there yet. So, but I'm most excited for that one.
Yeah. I would say for me, probably Paul McCartney. That was pretty cool to see him live just because I'm a huge Beatles fan.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to a few concerts this summer. I'm seeing Blink 182, so I'm excited to see how they do live. I don't know if you've seen
No
them before.
way. I was actually about to go to a Blink-182 concert this summer because they're
Mhm.
playing in Florida, and then my brother lives in Philly, so you're gonna go in Philly, but ended up choosing Cage the Elephant instead.
All right, all right. Well, I'll try to be, you can be there in spirit at the concert, but
Okay.
I'm excited because it's like Tom DeLonge came back, so I feel like it's a little bit different now compared to
It's
with when
cool.
it wasn't the original band member. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Now, one question I do want to ask you that's sort of lacrosse related, but how'd you come up with your media name, Lax Lizard? I think that's probably the coolest Instagram handle I've ever seen. So I thought I would ask you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I actually, my freshman year, I tried to change it to like Liz Harrison something, and I had
No,
so
don't
many
do it.
people text
Don't.
me. Exactly.
Yeah.
People were like, "No, it's too iconic." But the story is not even that crazy. And I went to start an Instagram, and it was asking for a username, and I didn't know what to put, and so I put Lax because I play lacrosse and it's short. And then my nickname is Lizard. My dad's always called me Lizard growing up, and um, I just always stuck. So I was like, all right, Lax, Lizard. And then I was number two at the time. So it was Lax, Lizard two. And of course, I get the who's number one and all that. But it just stuck. And like I said, freshman year, I tried to change it, and so many people were mad about it. So I was like, all
Yeah.
right, I guess I'll just be Lax, Lizard forever. So
Yeah. Is it because like Liz Harrison's such a common name, so you had to like switch it, like make it a little bit of a different username? Because I know some people have to do that.
yeah. And what I changed it to freshman year was like Liz Harrison six because that was my number. And I was like, all right, this is fine. Like, I'll just do
Mhm.
that. And then I mean, like I said, people were like, no, that's like too basic.
Yeah,
Let's stick with
exactly.
laxers. So I was like, okay. So now when people ask like my Venmo, anything, I'm like, oh, lax lizard. Everything was that. So it's for everything.
Yeah. Now, what is the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
This one was tough. I think the most underrated is July 4th because I just think it's so fun to just sit at a campfire and watch fireworks. I think that's just played off. People just ignore it sometimes. And I think for me, overrated is Halloween because I don't love the idea of like loading kids with candy at like 9 p.m. That just scares me a little bit. So um, that I think is a little overrated for me.
Your parents didn't check your candy after, because my parents had to do that every Halloween.
See, my neighborhood in Georgia, one person kept giving me Play-Doh and the other one was a dentist who just gave people dental floss. So I was
Oh,
like,
that's
no,
lame.
that's not fun.
That's lame.
So maybe that ruined it for me.
Yeah. I'm not a big Halloween guy just because like once you turn a certain age, it's not as fun as it used to be. So that's sort of why I'm not a big fan
Exactly.
of it. It's like telling a kid like once you turn 16, you can't get any presents for Christmas. It's like, well, then like the best part about the holiday is
What's
kind
the
of ruined.
point?
So
Yeah,
I do,
exactly.
maybe when I get older, I'll appreciate Halloween a little bit more, but as a college
Mhm.
student right now, it's not as fun as it could be. I would say
Exactly.
underrated, I'll go with Christmas Eve. I feel like that doesn't get talked about enough, but that's always a lot of
Okay.
fun.
I like Christmas Eve. It's just like the calm before the storm,
It's just all the hype. And then like the worst part about Christmas
That's
is the night of Christmas Day when it's all finished. It's like, wow, like it's just one of the worst vibes ever.
it.
Yeah, so the hype that you have on Christmas Eve makes that holiday very special to me.
100%. No, that's a good one because you're right. After Christmas morning, it's like, all right, well.
Now, who has the best off the field style on the Florida women's lacrosse team? This might be the toughest non-lacrosse question I have because I feel like every player in your team has great style.
We take pride in our style. Okay, so there's two. Player wise, Hannah Heller. Emily Heller's twin, like came to our team this year and she just has the coolest style. She's got a ring that has a watch on it.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just so cool. She's just yeah, she's awesome and she's just the coolest person ever. Coaching wise, like actually Nicole Levy will show up in outfits and she plans it, like she packs a certain outfit for certain days, like it's the whole thing. The rest of the coaching staff, like Reggie just has superstition. So he wears the same black pants and black shirt for every single game. No thought behind it. He's like, we won the last game in this outfit, so I have to keep wearing this outfit.
Yeah.
So I would say Nicole and Hannah Heller.
It's kind of like McDavid that he wore the same suit like the when they kept winning, and I kind of get that. Like, you can be a little superstitious sometimes.
I can be a little superstitious, but I don't know if I could do the same full outfit.
Well, make sure you at least wash it. Hopefully that happens. I think that would be kind of gross if you didn't.
I hope so. I hope so.
I feel like I feel like as a men's coach, you can do some cool like suits and stuff on the field. Like back in the NBA, those guys wore like really cool suits. So I feel like you can make that work.
A lot of the guys' teams will show up to games like in suits and all
Yeah,
dressed up. The
exactly. I feel like
women,
that
we
kind of looks
did
cool.
my junior year, we did. Like we would
Mhm.
dress up and have like moments, but not as much for the women's game.
Yeah, I feel like women's players have better style though, because you have more freedom of what you can wear versus with a lot of men's team, it's sort of the same stuff like the track suit outfit or a suit. That's usually what it is. And it's kind of boring. So I like when there's a little bit of freedom to the fashion choices.
We'll try and bring that back. Don't worry.
Mm.
We're gonna bring it
That's
back.
why I think the baseball team does a good job because it's a little more loose fashion rules, so they wear some cool stuff.
They have cool. Our football team has always cool outfits. Some of them,
Exactly.
express their style. So,
Now, what is the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
well, I am a through and through Gator fan. So I have been watching the swim trials, the Olympic trials, and then a couple of my friends are going to compete for the track trials coming up. So, crazy to think you go to school with these kids and you see them at their best and at their worst, walk into class after practice, they're like, please just let this day end. And then you see them making the Olympic team. So
Yeah, that's
that's been
awesome.
the coolest thing to watch this past week is seeing my friends succeed.
I don't know any. I'm trying to think of Florida athletes that I know. One guy's supposed to be a first pick in the MLB draft, if I'm not mistaken about that.
Yeah, so Jack Caglione, he's great. We're in the same like Christian student athlete
Oh, that's
kind of
cool.
forum group. And then his girlfriend and I roomed together my freshman year in COVID. We got shoved into like a quarantine dorm. And so I was like, hey, what's up? So I know her. Swimming wise, we have like Kieran Smith, we've got Bobby Fink, we have, of course, Katie Ledecky, some big names there. And then for track, we have Anna Hall, Claire Bryant, Grace Stark, a bunch of big, big names that um, we kind of just see all day training.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, if he's good, if he's gonna make it to the show, which I assume will happen, you got to ask for some tickets at some time if they ever come down to Miami.
I'm telling you, I gotta get some tickets to the Olympics. I need to go to Paris. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I did see Katie Ledecky make it. She's unbelievable. She's probably the best swimmer of all time, along with Michael Phelps. So she's super fun to watch. And I saw that. I don't know if you remember the guy, Cody Simpson. He was like a famous pop star, but he was
Yes.
trying out for the Australian swim team, which was pretty cool.
I don't know if he made it, but I saw it.
I
I
don't think
can't
he
believe
made
that's
it, but
what
it
he
was
does with
pretty
his life.
cool. Like I remember this guy like making music for Disney Channel, and now he's like
Yeah.
swimming. That's kind of cool.
It's a one way to change your life.
Hey, I have no problem with it. Keep it in shape and obviously doing fun sport. It's cool. I hope he still makes music though, because he did have some good songs back in the day.
I liked his stuff.
Now let's get back to some lacrosse questions. Now, first one is what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse?
I think just little things, as simple as hosting at the same place. It's crazy to me that again, lacrosse is just starting to go into the Olympics and start kind of having some movement there, and it's taken 6 years for that movement to be in place when I really think something as little as hosting at the same venue can just bring so much awareness and so much hype because I mean, the men's professional league has done such a good job at, marketing the program, the men's pros have a salary, insurance, they have a health plan, they have support, they have everything, they have sponsors. The pro women don't really have that luxury yet. And so I'm really hoping they start collaborating and doing some stuff like that because I think it could really help the game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And staggered start times as well. I felt like all the men's tournament games like were at different times, so you could watch all of them if you wanted to. And for the women's, they all start at the same time. And I was disappointed because I feel like if you want to grow the sport, you want people to watch as many games as they can, and then they can fall in love with different teams and different players, and then obviously that just helps the sport grow as well. But I agree with you. I hope they host it at the
100%.
same
Yeah.
time. Has Maryland ever hosted a Final Four? I was just thinking about that, where the Ravens play. I feel like it's always in Philly.
I know they haven't hosted one that I can think of,
That's
but
surprising.
um,
I feel like they would
I
do a good
know,
job.
but I could see the traffic too, but you're right. Philly has a lot of traffic, but even then, like they had our game at like on Thursday at 11 a.m. And I'm like, all right, well, who's gonna be able to make that, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like Gillette's hosting, and there seems to be a lot of traffic getting there as well. So, but I don't know, just a thought I had in my head. But hopefully they can do it at some point. But I guess before one last question to you, Liz, is any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates, family members, and friends, and who should we have on the podcast next?
I mean, I can't thank my family and teammates enough. Like always a shout out to my coaches. I think just trusting your gut with the school again in eighth grade, that's wild to think I was making a college decision at that time. But again, shout out to my dad for telling me to not have my mind set on marine biology. But um, I would say for your next podcast, my buddy Sammy Fisher, she's at Elon, star attacker there, and just she's going into her senior year. I know she has a lot of goals in mind, and she's really stepped up her game.
Awesome. We'll definitely reach out and see what she has to say. But Liz, thank you so much for coming on the Draw Control podcast. It's only fitting that you finally joined us here today. So I really appreciate your time. You're a great player and an even better person. I just want to let you know that, and I wish you nothing but the best in your marketing career. I know you're going to do great, and maybe I'll see you someday in corporate America when I'm doing something. So
Sounds great. Thank you so much.